concept. You have a great concept. You guys are doing it, man, and it's an honor for me to just be, a small rock, man, in your mountain. I'm gonna pop a top in your honor. Mr. Doc Walker blessed us with his presence and knowledge.
We want to welcome in our next special guest, Haley Skarupa. She's a three-time world champion in women's ice hockey and most recently won Olympic gold with Team USA.
The Cap Stadium Series was definitely my favorite, obviously. I'm a huge Caps fan. I always have been. And to be there at that game with my teammates and for us to bring, our gold medals to there and share it with everyone in this area was really, really special for me. And just the support, and it's been tremendous from everyone in this area. And you could feel that there at that game.
Now, here's Sports on the Hill podcast.
That's right. Welcome back to Sports on the Hill podcast on TruRadio Network, coming to you live from the lab. Victory Monday, back-to-back Victory Mondays for the Washington Redskins. I'm actually in here watching pregame for the Monday Night Football game. That's going to be a good one, Seattle and Minnesota, with playoff and wild card implications. But it's a good day in the neighborhood because the Redskins were victorious. I predicted their victory in the pregame. If you tune into Sports on the Hill podcast on NFL Game Day on Sundays when I'm normally broadcasting live from down Martinis in Fort Washington, Maryland at 725 Katy Drive. Make sure you head down there. They have the game on tonight. Cold beer, good drinks, $5 drinks and food specials. So go down there and check them out. But we got a great show tonight. We're covering the Capitals 3-0 week. We're covering the Wizards road trip. We're covering Redskins Victory Monday. And we even got Paul, the boxing guy, on this week to finally recap some of this boxing and talk about some of these upcoming bouts that's about to go down. But we got a full panel. We got a full show. But before we get going, always got to thank you, the fans, the listeners, contributors, everyone that checks out our show. We appreciate the love. We just hit over 1,700 likes on our page. We just hit 1,500 around August, and then boom, we didn't get another 200 within a 3-month span. So we appreciate all you guys sharing our stuff, letting folks know it's real DC sports media out here, because I know y'all tired of the same stuff that I'm tired of, all this clickbait and all of this nonsense going on, but we're definitely going to talk about that more in the second hour. We're talking about Redskins, because that's where all the clickbait and the side talk comes in at. But I'm not going to harp on that too much, because like I said, it's a good week. Redskins won, the Capitals, after the 1-2 week last week, came back strong with a 3-0 week this week, and we're about to break down in a little while. We got Anna K and Robbie G already on the line. Let me go ahead and bring on Robbie G, see how he doing tonight. What's going on, Robbie G?
I'm doing well. How are you doing tonight, Carol?
I'm doing good. We both a little under the weather, not feeling too good, but with Victory Monday, the show must go on, so we're going to push through and give another great episode of Sports on the Hill podcast.
For sure. It's as you're saying, I got a little bit of a cold, but we'll push through it, and I more feel bad for my son who also has that same cold. But yeah, it was a great weekend. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving weekend as well, and happy Thanksgiving to anybody who didn't check out last week's show. And it's a great time of year. We're now in December, which is my favorite month of the year. Next Monday, I will be at a Caps game for my birthday. I'm very excited about that. So I know you and Anna will hold down the fort, and maybe I'll call during the first intermission. But yeah, it's just been a great time of year. I always love this time of year, and I had an amazing Thanksgiving in New York City. I hope everyone else had a great Thanksgiving weekend as well.
No doubt. I could tell Zach did. I hear him in the background talking about, he had a good time.
Yeah.
That's good, man. You're going to go ahead and get ready to get started with this recap of the Caps week. I'm going to go ahead and bring in Ann and see how her Thanksgiving was before we get into this 3-0 week that was, because I know I got to ask her a question about one of our favorite players that I want to see what she says. Anna, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. And yeah, I'm coming off a great Thanksgiving holiday as well. Usually everyone, you're with family, too much food, too much drink, too many laughs, but no regrets. So it was fantastic, and I'm glad to see that you guys had a great holiday as well.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it was a memorable Thanksgiving. I'm going to just leave it at that. You guys probably had a better Thanksgiving than me, but that's another story for another day. Before we get started with this cap segment, anybody with any questions or comments, be sure to call in on the True Radio Network hotline at 347-884-9299. We got the Facebook live feeds going. We got the YouTube live feeds going. So any questions or comments, feel free to chime in because that's what we're here for. I'm going to have some of the highlights that I put together streaming on my Facebook Live while we're breaking down these games week in review. And Anna, before we get started, the question I have for you, our man Tom Wilson is growing a mustache, and he looks more like a porn star, 70s porn star, than we're used to. Are you a fan of the mustache, or you think he should let it go?
Please, Tommy, let the porn stash go. I am not a fan, and it kills me to say that, but there are very, very few people out there, athletes or not, who can pull off just a mustache. And then Tommy's just not one. Either is Oshie. But I will say, Tom, I don't know, there's something about, like, seeing him that it is, yeah, straight up 70s porn, and, like, that thing has got to go. So I guess we'll see what he decides to do being in California tomorrow. Gotta go.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, hey, he hit double-digit goals. We're going to talk about some of the things this team has done already, but they're the only team in the NHL with 5 players with double-digit goals. So, hey, the stash is working for them. I don't really like it, but, hey, if they went 3-0 with it, I say, you know how hockey players are, how superstitious they are, he might not cut that porn stash again all season.
That's true. That's true. And then I will grow to love it because it's Tommy. But yeah, there's been a good streak with the porn stash this year. So I have to admit, there's just some players that they just can't. I don't know. It just doesn't look good. At least Tommy's. It's there. It's mustache. A couple guys you're like not quite sure. Orloff, what's going on there? What's that? But if it's a superstitious thing and we're gonna ride the wave, I'll be on board, but right now I'm kind of over the Movember and hoping he'll come back with a full facial hair, come December. Hopefully.
Robbie, what about you? Thumbs up or thumbs down for the porn stash for Wilson?
Well, I of course like beards in general. I'm gonna start there. I like mustaches less than beards, so I would think that a beard is better than a mustache in almost all circumstances. But I think Tom Wilson, as long as he's forechecking and scoring goals, can put whatever facial hair he wants to have on.
I agree with that one full-heartedly. I can't even be mad at that logic, Robbie. But let's go ahead and recap this week that was for the Capitals when they had some very entertaining games this week. And Ovi's back again, putting new notches in the NHL record book. Let's go ahead and start with that Florida game last week that we knew was going to be a tough matchup.
Definitely. So last Wednesday, the Caps played Florida Panthers, and the captain was the only goal in the first at 17:57. Assisted by Kuzi. And second period, I'll give him a shout-out. Brett Connolly scoring at 11:17 to tie it up. And at the 19-minute mark, Panik gets his second goal of the season, assisted by Seeks, which is awesome. I something about those two that I just like together. But 22 seconds later, the Panthers tied up going into the third. At 5:18, Lars Eller scores, assisted by Vrana, which was his ninth. And Leipzig, at 11:59, assisted by Gudis and Siegs, scores, which he's kind of becoming my new favorite player. I just think his speed is just amazing. The Panthers score one more, but Washington comes away with a 4-3 win. And I walked away from this game. It was good. I enjoyed it. I was kind of on edge there a little bit. But if I strictly had to look at the statistics, the shots on goal, I would have never believed the Capitals would have won. They had 20, the Panthers had 40. So it was like, if you're kind of looking at it that way, you're like, who had more effort in the game? But we pulled out a win, and that was great to see.
No doubt, no doubt. Hope he improved to 12-2-4. He had allowed 3 goals on, as you mentioned, 40 shots. Obi did his thing, panicked. We talked about him before he got injured, how he hadn't produced anything, and him coming back to the lineup. That's 2 goals since he's been back, so he's found a way to finally contribute. Connolly, yeah, he's definitely. He's sorely missed on his team, but I did like the way he played, his grittiness, and the way he battles out there, and we saw that with the goal that he scored for the second game that they played against the Capitals. So he has a 2-goal streak against his old team. But it was we talked about this last week, how it was going to be a tight game. These teams know each other very well. They play a similar style. Just the Caps are, more adept at it and have more offense, and defense can lock down better than most. And it was a very entertaining game, but it was good to see the Caps get 2 points in regulation. We've seen a lot of overtime games and shootouts lately, so it was good to see them take care of business in 60 minutes instead of going extra time. What about you, Robbie?
So I got to see parts of this game. I obviously watched it on stream, and I caught the highlights later. This whole week is a little bit tough for me because I was already in New York by that time, and I was in New York for all 3 of the games we're going to break down. But overall, I was really happy that Ovechkin started the week off well with getting a goal, and we'll talk about some of his other goals in a couple of games. I thought that all the players seemed to be playing with some good speed, and I just thought that when the chips sort of went down for them with like a goal being scored like 22 seconds after the Panik goal, that had made it 2-1, and then they tied it up 2-2. I thought that was a big momentum killer for the Capitals, and it could give a lot of momentum to Florida going into the third period. But I was happy to see that they had a good defensive first 5 minutes, and then they were rewarded with that Lars Eller goal, and they were able to add another goal on top of that as well. So, and then they allowed a goal at the end there, but by that point it was 4-3, and they were able to hold on for the win, and Holtby was the first star of the game, which is always great. And I'm just really happy overall how they did.
No doubt, no doubt. It was a gritty game. It was a classic Capitals game. They did what they had to do and found a way to win and hold off. They gave, like I said, they gave up a late goal, but other than that, it was a solid game. They didn't really have too many odd man rushes or anything like that. So it was good to see Capitals win in 60 minutes. Let's go ahead and get into this Tampa Bay game that was very entertaining. Also, that was forced to overtime.
Yes, it was. So. Friday at 5, the Caps play the Lightning. Out of the 3, I would say this was probably the most aggressive game that we saw out of Washington, and definitely 60 minutes of hockey, which is always fantastic. So the first period has Tampa Bay scoring first at 18:50 with power play goals, and then Tampa also scores first in the second, but at 5:17, Scusi scores a power play goal assisted by Oshie and Brana. Tampa closes out the second, giving them a 3-1 lead into the third, which I think had all of us thinking, okay, is this going to be it, or are we going to rally? And definitely saw the Capitals rally, which we've seen a couple of times, them coming back after being down so many points. So this is a good thing. So we have, at 3:35, Jacob Brana scores his 12th, assisted by Oshie. And at 11:36, Ovechkin scores a power play goal to tie it up, assisted by Orlov and Boyd, which pushes us into overtime. And then at 3:03, Orlov scores, assisted by Kuzi and Oshie, for the win. And for as much as I still cannot quite get on the number 9, fan club thing. This was outstanding. It was great. I was happy to see Orlov do it. I definitely did not see this coming, but what a great way to close out the overtime for sure.
Most definitely, Mo. I've been one of Orlov's, biggest critics and doubters. So I'll talk about the game winner in a second. I'm going to go back and recap the game. I had the similar feeling that you did when it was 3-1. The Caps going to be able to come back. We've seen them do it before. Tampa Bay has been, they've been coming together. They've had a rough start to the season, being a President's Trophy winner from last year and getting ousted in the first round. They had a little hiccup at the start of the season, but they've been playing some better hockey. So, they raised their level to play against the Caps. And, excuse me, adult beverages going around in the lab right now. Y'all have to pardon me. But, they got on to a 3-1 lead. They were playing aggressive. They were forechecking. They were, taking advantage of all the mistakes the Capitals made. And then just went to the third period, and the Caps just, hit a switch. And, they got those tying goals. Ovi doing his thing. And Rana, we talked about him last year. He was stepping up and how well he's playing now. I actually saw an article published today saying that, he's the future face of the franchise. And the way he's playing, I can't argue with that logic. But then with Orlov in that overtime game, one of his first of his career, so I can't be mad at that. But he has been playing better. He hasn't been taking as many chances. With Orpik retirement, I was really concerned about him being out there because Orpik, that veteran leadership, he can always tell them, chill out, calm down, do this, do that. And they really don't have that veteran leadership. Carlson is doing it by, points and, breaking all the records points-wise and playing well, but you don't have that veteran presence out there to rein him in when he's, doing a little bit too much. But that game-winning goal was beautiful play. He, came in at the right time. It was, prime time. He made a hell of a move and scored, and that's what fuels him. He likes playing defense, but he's more of an offensive defenseman. So, that might be something that, helps further progress his development and get him to that John Carlson level. And I can't do nothing but take my hat off to him. First career game winning overtime, so I know he was loving life. It was a good game. Good to see him come back even after a slow start against a potent team. And it was a good win. What about you, Robbie?
Well, you guys know that I'm the biggest Orlov fan of the three of us, so I was very excited. He does wear my favorite number, which is number 9, and I was excited to see all 3 Russians get a goal in this. Orlov not only scored the game winner, but assisted on the game-tying goal that Ovi scored. So it was good to see, all around a good game for Orlov. I will say, if you want to hear some Orlov hatred or that she's not a fan of it, you should listen to this week's episode of Power Play Point Podcast. Anna makes her feelings on Orlov very clear on that. SportsOTHP.com/click on the Power Play Point Podcast button to hear more about that. I listened to it on my ride home. It was entertaining, to say the least. But I am in the Orlov camp. He is one of my favorites, and I'm happy to see it. Now, you said that this is his first overtime game-winning goal. He's had other game winners, right? Just not in overtime?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, he hasn't had any in it. That was his first overtime game when that hockey has all those different statistics. Yeah, that was his first overtime game-winning goal.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations to him on that. And I watched parts of this game, but again, I had to watch the highlights later. But I was very excited, and it was a great.
It was good. I absolutely give him credit for his ability. What threw me, and since you heard our podcast, was him being interviewed. It's almost like you're watching for the first time Mike Tyson fight, and then you listen to Mike Tyson speak, and you're like, whoa, that voice doesn't quite match. And that's how I felt like when Orlov was interviewed after, and I thought, God, if I totally missed this whole voice of his, but for some reason I just became fixated on it, and I just couldn't let it go. So that, yes, it was brought up, and it's probably rather snarky of me, but I don't know, I still need more from number 9 before I can jump on that bandwagon. But hats off to him. It was an awesome overtime goal.
Yeah, sounds good. No,
don't get me wrong. I'm not on the bandwagon yet. I'm liking the improvement. And if he stay consistent with it, then yeah, I'll lay off of him. But he's definitely played better than I expected he would to start this season. Like I said, with Orton being gone and some of the new younger defensemen on the squad now, I didn't know how he would react to that, And I can say he's done more positive than negative this year, in my opinion. I always watch him closely. I feel like he's definitely, playing better than I thought he would at the start of this season, and hopefully he can continue to improve.
Yeah, he's trending in the right direction, as we like to say, which is something that I'm happy with because, I've tried to defend him a lot, and there are times where it is, damn it, Orlov. I understand why that is the meme within the Washington Capitals community of fans, and I understand it. I can't say I'm such a homer for him that I don't see his gaffes, but, offensively, when he produces and when he's on, he's one of the better offensive production talent from our D-core that we have, and I know that we get him and we pay for him to be a good defensive player, and I think that he's gotten better at that end of his game as well. So I'm excited to see how he does. I hope that he can continue in this upward trajectory.
No doubt, no doubt. And let's get into this epic Detroit game where Ovi eclipsed some more records in the NHL record, but let's go ahead and break down that Detroit game from the other day.
Yeah. So the Caps flew to Detroit to take on the Red Wings. Hands down, the worst first period of Capitals hockey this season. I think a lot of people turned the game off, which is a little disappointing. I wrote it out for the 60 minutes, and I'm glad that I did. So the first period, Detroit scores the only goal, and then we jump into the second period, and it has Oshie scoring a power play goal at 2:19, assisted by Zana and Kuzi, followed by Ovechkin scoring his 19th at 9:21, assisted by Carlson, and Kuzi giving the Capitals a 2-1 lead going into the third. Third period has Tommy Wilson scoring his 10th. Not only scoring, but scoring and sliding on his ass into the boards, cheering for himself and celebrating. It was not just because it was Tommy, but a little bit because it was great to see. Detroit does come back to score their second of the night, but not before the captain gets two more empty netter goals within 40 seconds, giving him a hat trick, and I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say. He's goat. That's it. That's all I can say. He's absolutely a phenomenal player to watch, exciting to watch, and never showboats anything. Gets a hat trick, he's like, whatever. And the fact that he got that third goal, I don't know if either one of you saw it, but he's literally dragging Red Wings player who's attached to his leg and still manages to score. It's fantastic. So this is a very started off terrible, but a very, very fun game to watch.
For sure.
No doubt. This is how crazy it was. I was actually working my night gig, and it was so slow that I was watching the game on my phone and actually did a video while I was at work to highlight the greatness of Ovi. The game did start out slow for the Capitals. Sometimes they start out slow, but that's a good thing. It's a bad thing. They can come back and get up goals and play solid defense. It's bad because you start off slow. Sometimes you can't do that against top opposition. It goes both ways. But, this team knows how to win now, with the Stanley Cup under their belt from 2018. When you get that, they know that they can do it. And unfortunately, that's a gift and a curse because you know what it takes to win. And sometimes, even when you don't have your best stuff, you can pull it off. And we've seen that in the past, but now that they've actually got rewards of it, it solidifies in their mind. So you can look at it in a good way or a bad way, but the fact that they won 3-2, even though it was 2 empty net goals by Ovi and most kind of an unconventional hat trick. But, this team is solid. They got the pieces back, They get Nicky back. The game's upcoming. He'll be back, I believe, first game, the next game that they play. So, they're the Capitals. They're going to score offensively. They're still leading the league in goals, I believe. Still top team in the league. So the fact that they won the Cup a couple of years ago, that gives them, I feel, a little bit more of a swagger and more of a edge to them because they know even if they go down, as we've seen earlier this season, they went down, 4-1, 5-1, and they find a way to come back and win in overtime. So they know they can do it. It's some nights that they know they might not come out on top, but getting back to Ovi, I mean, that goal, the empty net goal, yeah, it was kind of hilarious watching the guy trying to slow him down, and Ovi just dragging him down the ice like, I'm just let the puck slide and get this hat trick and give him his 20th goal of the season, which is his 15th consecutive season in a row with 20-plus goals, which puts him in elite class. He's only the 5th player in NHL history to do that. But, I mean, we've talked about his greatness before the Capitals won the Cup. Once they won the Cup, it just solidified that he's the top, Hall of Fame. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's going to go down as the greatest Russian-born scorer player ever. And there's still a chance that he could reach Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal plateau. It's possible. It'll take a lot of work, but he's been putting in work. So this dude is great. I'm glad to be a Capitals fan and be able to witness his career from the beginning to where it is now until the end whenever he does hang it up. But to me, he's the pinnacle example of a DC sports figure. He's done everything he's supposed to do, never get in trouble, gives back to the community, does his job on the ice, stays healthy as a power forward that runs around hitting everybody. I think that's the most dynamic part of his career that awes me is how healthy he's been with the way that he plays, how physical he is, and how much abuse he takes and how much abuse he doles out. But I mean, everyone wants to hop on the negative bandwagon about DC sports and yada, 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 but we have to salute some of these guys that's been out there doing it, and I always talk about the negative of what's not going on and praise the guys that's out there doing it. And this dude has done everything that's asked of him and done more, and we got to salute this dude. This dude should have an Alex Ovechkin day in DC sometime soon, man. That's just the way I feel. What about you?
I totally agree. I mean, he is my favorite Washington Capital of all time. I know that a lot of people feel that way about him as well. Just a really interesting game. I do like Anna's point about the final goal. There was he got so many penalties, on the other team as he's trying to score. They would have awarded the goal no matter what had happened. I thought that was interesting. I do think there was a cheap shot at the end of that, though, when he was on one leg being pulled by one guy, and then he was knocked to the ice. And I think that's why he had a bit of a muted celebration, because he was kind of being like, what the hell? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you guys already had hacked and slashed at me enough on that play. You're going to cheap chop me afterwards, which I thought was kind of a little...
Was that the Dylan Larkin hit?
Yeah, I think so. It was just he was on one skate after he had scored, and he took a cheap shot. Like, it was already been a goal, and he obviously took umbrage with the fact that he got 2 empty net goals. And some people are like, oh, it's stat padding or whatever. But there is so many seasons, or at least one in particular, where Ovi got 49 goals, and I had wished he had gotten an empty netter at some point in the season. Because what happens if he could have one more 50-goal season? So I don't really care. A goal is a goal. If they don't want an empty net goal scored on them, then they should have put the goalie back, especially after the first one. And it was a great job by him to rip off the goal. He had to work for that second one. It wasn't given to him. He stole that puck and had 3 guys on him, and he still was able to score the second empty netter. So for me, a lot of people are like, oh, look at his empty net goal stats or whatever. But, it doesn't matter how he scores them. The fact that he can put them up is incredible. And I hope that he hits 700 this season, because I think that would be really incredible as well. He could potentially still do it. So
I have one question for both of you or either of you who want to answer it. The Wilson penalty with which they called it was a knee penalty. I would love if somebody could explain it to me, because I completely I watched it over and over again, and the explanation was more frustration from the commentators than anything. But I've never seen this before, and I'm just wondering if you guys could shed some light on it, or if you even saw it.
Rob, I'm going to let you handle this, because I just had some technical difficulties where my laptop just shut down on me. So I'll let you get to that, and I'm going to try to get my stuff back up and running, because I don't know what the hell just happened.
Oh, no, that sucks. We're in the middle of a good live feed. Well, maybe you could just pick it up for the Redskins feed on that. But, Yeah, I saw replays of it. I think it's a very questionable hit for sure. I mean, all I really know, because I couldn't watch that part of it live, was social media went bananas for it. Like,
Yeah.
Cap's Twitter, Cap's Facebook, saying it was one of the most egregious calls, and it's Tom Wilson for being Tom Wilson. I did get to see the replay of it. I didn't think it was deserving of the penalty, but it's also difficult when it's couched by all that commentary ahead of time. I didn't see the play live to judge for myself, sort of thing. But there wasn't enough in my mind to call it. But I mean, Tom Wilson gets reputation calls against him all the time, so I can't say that I'm surprised about it. So.
Oh no, I 100% was not surprised because I thought, wait, I'm sorry, what mean? That what? Okay. But I guess it was a penalty I wasn't familiar with and wasn't sure what I missed. And I watched it and I thought, oh, okay, I guess. I mean, obviously it's a legit penalty. I just don't think this call was legit for Wilson. But surprise, nope. But I just hadn't seen it. It doesn't seem like it's a very common call.
Yeah. Again, it was hard when I didn't get to watch it live for me to give a true interpretation of it. But hopefully, he won't get these reputation calls, because I do think he's changed his game a lot. But sometimes reputations stick with somebody, even if he's not playing as dirty, hasn't been in as many fights, hasn't gotten as many penalties called on him. Unfortunately, that mentality sticks sometimes. So. Let's take a look at the week ahead real quickly, as we just have a couple more minutes left in Caps Talk. Anna, I'll have you break down these upcoming games. We have our annual California West Coast swing. I know that you're a California girl. Starting Tuesday, December 3rd. We're starting it at the Sharks, and so that's a 10:30 start. And then on Wednesday, so it's a back-to-back, we go to the Kings, Los Angeles Kings, that is. That's a 10 o'clock start. So that game's less than 24 hours later. And then you get one day off, and then right back to those Ducks, who I'm sure are pissed from that last matchup. So that one is on Friday, December 6th, and that's a 10 o'clock start. And then the last game before our next show, or actually during our next show, is the Monday, December 9th, my birthday, playing Columbus back home, and that's a 7 o'clock start. And I'm hoping to be able to call it during the first period intermission and break down my thoughts on that, but you guys will be able to break down your live thoughts in the other three games. What are your thoughts, Anna, real quickly, on this West Coast road swing?
Oh boy, I think honestly that if the Capitals can go into the Shark Tank tomorrow and play 60 minutes of smart hockey, they've got this. What they have against them, unfortunately, is that the Sharks are in a hot roll. They've been doing really well, and we all know how physical they can be when you have a Carlson, a Thornton, a Burns. Don't know who's between the pipes, but if you have Jones there, it's a lot. I think this is probably the best way for the Capitals to kick off the three games. So I feel like if they can get a win in the Shark Tank, I think they can also beat the other two teams. But I think if they just are going to have to, I don't want to see it be. I know however much everybody hates Joe Thornton, and rightfully so, but let's not make stupid moves out there on the ice to get penalties and drop the gloves for unnecessary reasons. If there's a reason, hell yeah, I want to see the fight. I want to see the Sharks go out. But I feel like it's a fun matchup. You've got really awesome players on both teams. I don't know if I'll be able to stay up and watch the game, but I'll try. But I do feel very strongly that if the Capitals can go in to those three games, which I always hate the West Coast ride, but I feel like if they can take it out in the Shark Tank, they can ride the wave for the rest of the time out there.
I think it's pretty good. Carol, what are some of your thoughts on those matchups?
I didn't get to hear all of them. I know the West Coast trip, we got San Jose. That you say that's definitely going to be a contentious matchup after the loogie scene around the world by Hathaway. So I'm sure there's going to be some fisticuffs early for the makeup of for that, going down. He got his 3-game suspension, but there's going to be some repercussions on the ice. But I feel like the Capitals still going to prevail. What was the other game on the bracket? I'm still getting everything set back up for Redskins talk after
it was the Sharks, the Kings, and the Ducks.
Okay, the Kings. The Kings are the Kings. They might not, always be the top of the division, but they always solid defensively, always have solid goaltending. They're going to give you a physical game, and it's another winnable game for the Caps. They just have to play their game and not get off to a slow start, even though, they did against Detroit on the road. Kings are a different team, different beast, so you want to try to get out there, and they're probably going to be jazzed after the game against San Jose, wherever it goes down. So hopefully they get the adrenaline pumping and get the game started on the right foot. And Anaheim, I haven't really paid a lot of attention to them this year, so I'm not really sure what they're looking like right now. But I know they always play the Capitals tough. They're always a physical team. They always can, score, have an aggressive forecheck, and solid goaltending, and that hasn't changed. So it's the West Coast trip is always a good test for the Capitals with the different styles out there on the West Coast, more physical, not as much offense, more forechecking, and more solid goaltending. So I feel like they can have another 3-0 week just like they did this week.
Yeah, my gut feeling is if we're lucky, we'll go 2-1. This West Coast trip seems to always be difficult for the Caps, but I have to say the last couple of seasons they've done better. So I'm hoping that trend continues. But to have to play 3 games in 4 nights is a difficult feat. They had a couple of days off before it. And they'll have a couple of days off before the game against Columbus that I'm so excited about going to. So hopefully, awesome. I hope that they can give me the best 35th birthday present ever and see a win in person. It will be my 3rd birthday Caps game that I've ever gone to. So I'm hoping to break the 1-1 tie the right way. All right. So Anna, you've been awesome. I definitely suggest people go to SportsOTHP.com and click on the Power Play Point podcast and listen to your great show from today. It really helped on the ride home, and it's always a fun listen. Any other shout-outs you'd like to give before we let you go tonight?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you for the plug. I appreciate it. I wish I could close out on a Niner win, but
I'm sorry.
It didn't happen, but it was an awesome game, and good on you guys for the Skins win.
Yeah.
You're kind of throwing my football pool off, but that's okay. That's okay. If Washington's happy, I'm happy for you guys. So, no, other than that, I'm hoping to catch one of these games this week. Definitely San Jose. That's my, close to my hometown. So, hoping to catch that, and I'll just be a zombie for my students the next day, but whatever.
Yes. Yes, it's kind of that time of year where everyone's getting sick. There's late night hockey. The days are short. It's rough. It's rough, but only like 3 more weeks until Christmas break. So we just push through it. And if there's some late night hockey, we'll just have to watch it or maybe watch the DVR. So, but thank you.
There you go. Well, have a great rest of the show. I'm glad you're back safely, Robbie, from New York. It looked like a fantastic trip. And Carol, you were quiet about your holiday. I hope it was at least fun. Maybe?
No, I'm going to just leave it at that. Let's just say my Thanksgiving dinner consisted of half a pizza and some sandwiches. I'm going to just leave it at that.
Oh, no.
All right, then we're going to Christmas outstanding. We're just going to pull for that then.
Yes, sounds good.
Yeah, definitely. Got to always stay positive.
All right,
there you go. All right, well, thanks, guys, and I'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Have a good week. I'll see you next week. Appreciate it as always.
Awesome.
Always. Thanks, guys.
All right. So I'm going to switch gears here into my Wizards Roundtable. Let me switch the logos and the graphics. And I think I've got 3 members of the Roundtable on the line. Let me check the line real quickly to see. Arun, is this you?
Yeah, that's me.
Perfect, awesome. How was your Thanksgiving?
Pretty good. Not as good as Carol's, but all right.
So that's awesome. And let me bring in our next member, Brian, who was nice enough to watch the Man Cave, and in doing so led to a 5-1 week for DC teams in the Man Cave. I know you usually root for the New York sports teams, but I appreciate it as I was actually in New York, so it was kind of a role reversal. But Brian, how was your Thanksgiving, and how are you doing tonight?
Good, Robbie. I'm glad I contributed to the DC sports success, even though it's not my team, by being in the Man Cave and bringing good luck. So it's good to see.
Sounds awesome. All right, and our final member of the roundtable for this week is Ken, DC People's Champ. And how was your Thanksgiving, Ken?
My Thanksgiving was good, restful. Man, Carol, if I had known you ain't had no food, you should have hit me up. My mama cooked plenty of food. You know how black folk get down.
Hey man, it's all good, man. I couldn't. I was stuck in the house. My transportation was in the shop. I'll be hopefully getting out tomorrow. I didn't want to bother nobody on the beautiful Thanksgiving with their family, so I just laid low in the lab, did some work and some research, and had my half a pizza and my couple of sandwiches, and was thankful for that, bro. But I appreciate it, and I'll keep that in mind for Christmas if the same thing happens.
You know what it is. It's all good, man. You know what it is. But
yes, sir.
My Thanksgiving was nice. My Thanksgiving was real nice and restful and everything like that. So, but yeah, I'm ready to talk about this road trip that we just had. Jesus Christ.
Yes, sounds good. All right, let's get into it. Let me get up the most recent stats here. Switch over to this first game against Denver. So it was a close game when it started. In the first quarter, Denver outscored the Wizards 25-23. The Nuggets then kind of blew up in the second quarter, as they say. 39 points to the Wizards, only scored 24. Both teams scored 22 points in the third. The Wizards kind of made it slightly more respectable by outscoring the Nuggets 35-31. It ended up being 117-104. I'm putting different stats on the screen right now so that people can check out additional stats if they would like to. But we'll start off with Arun. Arun, what were some of your thoughts on this game?
Overall, Washington kept it close in the first quarter with they played pretty good defense, held Denver to 25 points. I actually think in the second quarter, more their offense that was leading to bad break opportunities for the Denver Nuggets, and that really put the game out of reach by even halftime. And then Beal only had 14 points, and unfortunately the Wizards don't really have the firepower. In this one, they held the Nuggets under 120 points and only scored 104 points, just pretty low by today's NBA standards.
Right. Brian, I know that you caught parts of this game. What were some of your thoughts on it?
Yeah, Denver's firepower was too much for the Wizards, especially in that second quarter. I mean, that's where they pulled away. It wasn't really much of a game, like Arun said, pretty much decided by halftime. And you mentioned that Bradley Beal only had 14 points, but when Bradley Beal's not scoring, it's kind of hard for the rest of the team to get going. And that really cost them. Obviously, I kind of feel like the score was not as close as the game was, honestly. I mean, the Wizards made it kind of close in the end, but Denver had this one pretty much wrapped up all the way.
And Champ, what were some of your thoughts on this matchup?
I'm going to piggyback off of Brian's point about Beal and his lack of scoring. The fact that Jordan McRae was your leading scorer off the bench with 21 points should be a telltale sign that, the scoring just wasn't there when you need it. And you're going up against the second best team in the West. You have to bring all your firepower, and clearly the Wizards did not do that. And I said this on the roundtable last week that this vote was going to be tough for them because 3 of the 4 teams they were facing are the top 3 teams in the West, and we saw what happened.
For sure. All right, let's continue on to the next game, which was the Suns game. This one started off well for Washington. They were able to score 36 points in the first. to Phoenix's 34. They were able to extend the lead in the second by scoring 38 to Phoenix's 35. And then they kept it going in the third, 34 to 26. Phoenix outscored Washington 37-32, but by that point, the Wizards were able to win 140 to 132 with Bradley Beal putting up a much more respectable 35 points. Thomas Bryant put up 9 rebounds. Ish Smith had 7 assists, and I'll show some other stats while we have different people break it down. This one we'll start off with Brian. What were some of your thoughts on the Phoenix game?
Yeah, this was a good game. It was high scoring. This was a game where Bradley Beal actually did show up and had a really nice game. Scored 35 points. Thomas Bryant also had 23 points for the Wizards. That was enough to outscore Devin Booker and the Suns. Kelly Oubre scored 12 points for the Suns, which was nice to see. And this was another one where the Wizards actually were pulling away kind of late. The Suns went on a bit of a run towards the end of the game to make it closer than it was. But the Suns scored 37 points in the fourth quarter to make it a little bit closer than it was. But this was a good win for the Wizards against a kind of average team from the Western Conference, the Phoenix Suns. That's what I think about it.
All right, Champ, you're up next. So what are some of your thoughts on this matchup with the Suns?
I have a number for you. That number is 7. That is the number of players that were in double figures in scoring in this game. This is a game that the Wizards had to win because, as Brian said, this is an average team. They're 8th in the West, and going into back-to-back games in Los Angeles against the top the first and third best teams in the league in the West, you need this win and you need this confidence builder. Good for Bill getting off a very bad game, going out scoring 35, and Thomas Bryant getting 23 and 9, almost had a double-double. Good win for the Wizards, and they needed it going into the next 2 games.
I agree. All right, Arun, what were some of your thoughts on this matchup?
Overall, pretty good game. Less than 24 hours off the Denver loss. Scott Brooks had breakfast meeting with the team, an impromptu one, and for some reason it worked out, and the Wizards were able to pull out a win. I think Phoenix is a lot better than I thought they would be. They're like 8 and 10. I honestly thought they'd have less than 30 wins, but they might actually have like closer to 41 wins. So overall, really good win. Probably the most winnable game on this road trip, and for the Wizards to show up and 59 points off the bench is going to almost always get you a win.
Sounds good. All right, well, let's get on to the next one. So I have to admit, the Lakers have been a team that I rooted for in the past. I've always kind of liked them. They're probably my favorite West Coast team. I did not get a chance to watch this game live, but I kind of expected this result. It's tough for me because I'm not a big LeBron James fan, but I obviously like the history of the Lakers, and I was a big Kobe Bryant fan. But the Lakers came out early and often and just scored on them. They scored 37-23 in the first. They continued to outscore them 33-26 in the second. Outscored them 35-30 in the third. And the Wizards were able to outscore them barely, but by that point, we know that that's garbage time. They were able to outscore them in the fourth, 24-20. But the Lakers were able to coast to a relatively easy 125-103 victory. Champ, what's your thoughts on this game?
4 of their 5 starters were in double figures in points in this game, including AD, Anthony Davis, 26 points and 13 rebounds, double-double. King James with a double-double, 23 points, 11 assists. JaVale McGee had a double-double, 15 and 11 boards. So, I mean, when you have that kind of scoring output, especially from your starters, and then you had Quinn Cook off the bench, he had 17. I mean, the Wizards can only do but so much. And then Bradley Beal only had 18 points, so he was your leading scorer at 18 points, which says a lot about how this game went for the Wizards.
For sure. All right, Arun, what are some of your thoughts on this matchup?
This game was like over at halftime. Wizards were down like over 20 points, and a couple former Wizards, JaVale McGee with 15 points and 11 rebounds, and Dwight Howard making an appearance. and this is the first time that the Lakers had won 10 games in a row since 2009 with Kobe and Pau Gasol. Probably just the Wizards, as a lot of us predicted, this was going to be a tough game for them to pull out. Officiating, I heard some Wizards fans complaining about officiating in the second half. Honestly, that probably would have made a difference, just made it cosmetically closer, and maybe Washington can come away with a better effort when they play again in DC.
All right, and Brian, what were some of your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I watched the beginning of this game, and the Wizards actually got off to a pretty decent start. They were actually up on the Lakers at the beginning of this game, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Lakers just went on this run, a huge run to bury the Wizards even in the first quarter. And this game was over pretty much from. Like you said, 37-23 in the first quarter says it all. That's all it was from there. The Lakers are a much better team than the Wizards right now, and it shows this game. And the Wizards just didn't have enough firepower in this game to even remotely come close. 22-point loss is pretty bad.
For sure. All right, let's move on to the next game. You don't have to travel very far for this one, since this game is played in the same arena. They played the LA Clippers. The Clippers outscored them 39-35 in the first, and then they really put the hurt on them, 43-22 in the second. The Wizards tried to make a game of it by outscoring the Clippers 41-34 in the third, and then in the fourth, the Clippers decided they had enough of that, and they outscored the Wizards 34-27, and ended up winning 150-125. And shout out to one of my good friends and my best man, who was actually at the game. Pete, he said that the game was very boring, and it was decided by halftime. And he's not necessarily a fan of either of the teams. He was just speaking of some of his thoughts on it. And with all that being said, I will start it with Arun. What were some of your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, as we're speaking of the Lakers, I think one of the teams that matches up well with the Lakers are the Clippers, and they're probably, I think they are the title favorites according to Vegas. And Rui was the only bright spot for the Wizards with 30 points and 9 rebounds. Kawhi Leonard, who's not very verbose, said some nice words about Rui, saying he can be something special. It's nice that he knocked down a couple of three-pointers. He was shooting, I believe, 20% coming into this game. So if he can knock down the three, then it really opens up the rest of his game. He can get to the rim off the cut. Beal had 11 assists, only 18 points. Under 25 points, not a lot of defense. Maybe Rui played a little bit of defense, but everyone else really didn't play any defense. And only Bertans, I believe, was the only solid player off the bench for 20 points. And not many. And the Wizards were out Mo Wagner, so it was going to be tough to beat the Clippers, who are 12-1 at home.
For sure. Brian, I know you said you didn't get to catch much of this game. Did you have any just general thoughts on it?
No, this was always going to happen no matter what. Clippers are, like Arun said, one of the title favorites in the Western Conference. And this whole trip was going to be difficult from the start, facing Denver, Phoenix, and the two LA teams. And it ended with a really difficult loss, 25-point loss to the Clippers. But, like Rui said, Rui Hachimura is really a bright spot, 30 points this game. He's definitely working towards being something special. Rui Hachimura has been one of the biggest bright spots for the Wizards this whole season, for sure. And that's being it. Hopefully, there's a Rui who gets even better. That's a good start for us.
All right, Champ, final thoughts on this game before we're going to do a rapid-fire upcoming week preview.
Well, big shout-out to Rui for his 30-point output and coming one more short of a double-double. He and Beal and Isaiah Thomas tried to do what they can, and Bertans off the bench with 20. But when you have their two best players, the PG-13 and Kawhi Leonard, go off at 30-plus each, yeah, it's kind of hard to win in that situation. But, I mean, again, this is the third best team in the West, and as been mentioned, they are favorites to win the NBA championship out of the West. So, I mean, you get what you expect here, but when Kawhi and Paul George go off, it's kind of hard to contain them, and it's kind of hard to win. You can't contain them.
Sounds good. All right, so rapid fire now. As we're looking at the week ahead, I'll give each one of you guys a team. We're going to break it down. You're going to give a quick little thing about it, and then we're going to move on. So we're starting off with Tuesday, December 3rd, tomorrow versus Orlando, a 7 o'clock game. I'm going to have Arun. Why don't you break that one down?
Yeah, sure. The Wizards already played Orlando. They lost earlier, 125 to 121. Orlando's 8-11. They have the 8th seed in the playoff spot. If the Wizards want to make a playoff push in the East, which isn't that hard, they could definitely get this one against the Orlando Magic, who are not really that good.
For sure. All right, next one. I'm giving to Brian Brennan. It's versus Philadelphia, Thursday, December 5th, 7 p.m. It's at home in Washington. What are your thoughts on the 76ers?
I think it will be a tough game for the Wizards. The Sixers are one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference right now, 14-6, and guys like Embiid are getting it done as usual. It'll be a tough game, and there'll probably also be a lot of Sixers fans in the arena as well. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm a Wizards fan. I'm not too optimistic about this game. I'd be much more optimistic about the Magic one.
Sounds good. All right, Champ. I'm going to give you the game at Miami, Friday, December 6th. It's an 8 o'clock start. What are your thoughts on that one against a division rival?
These schedule makers do not like the Wizards at all. A second game of a back-to-back on the road against the third best team in the East. I have to agree with Brian. I think that everybody should be more optimistic about the Orlando game than this one. Jimmy Butler's been playing well, averaging close to 19 points a game. That team is well-rounded, and they're not missing a lot of key players. So coming off a back-to-back at home and having to travel for a game the next night, yeah, I don't see this going the Wizards' way. It would be a miracle, in my opinion, if they do win it.
Yes. My dad just commented on my Facebook Live feed that the Wizards need to learn to play defense, and I agree. It all starts on the defensive.
We've been saying this for weeks, Robbie.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. If they play defense, they can score enough. It's just when you're allowing things like 150 points in a game, it's going to be hard to win, or even 125 points in a game. So I think the key is to keep it to under 120. I know that Denver game they lost, but most games when they keep the other team under 120 even, they win. So that's going to be a key. All right, Arun, I'll give you the last game of the week. It's Sunday, December 8th against the Clippers that we talked about before that beat us 150 to 125. That'll be a 6 o'clock start time at home again on Sunday. What are your thoughts on that one?
It really depends if Kawhi Leonard plays or not in this game. He might not play since the first game of the back-to-back. And the Clippers have lost 5 games on the road this season, largely due to the resting of Kawhi Leonard. If you're getting tickets to this game, you may not get to see Kawhi, but maybe that puts Washington in a better position to win. But then again, Paul George is also back, so it'll be tough to win, but we'll see what happens.
For sure. Well, my dad agrees with you, Champ, so he commented that. So we got it in under the wire before 8 o'clock. I'm going to give a couple quick shout-outs, and then I'll let you guys say all of your goodbyes. Shout-out if anyone was checking out the live feed, wanted to pick up one of these T-shirts for District of Champions, or a pillow, or iPhone cover, or anything else, go to SportsOTHP.com, support the show. And the links are all right there on the apparel site. And I, in fact, rearranged the store last week, so all the new stuff is at the top. So definitely check that out and support the show. Appreciate it. And so yeah, it's been will hopefully be a good week for the Wizards. Champ, I'll let you give a quick little shout out for No Spots Podcast and any final thoughts that you have tonight.
Yes, if you have not listened to the recent episode of No Spots that we did on Friday, the first 10 minutes I gave a very passionate and very transparent rant about how the internet wrestling community is treating Mauro Ranallo, who has been documented as dealing with bipolar disorder. If you don't listen to any other show, listen to that one and listen to the first 10 minutes and you will understand. This Friday, of course, we're going to look at the week that was, including that piss-poor effort they had of a house show called Starcade yesterday and all of that. And so, again, just check us out on Friday nights at 10 p.m. on the TruRadio Network, No Spots Podcast, myself, Sith Lord, and Donnie Wrestling.
Yes, and if anyone wants a quick little link to it, if you go to SportsOTHP.com, we actually have a TruRadio Network button. You click that, and it shows all the archive shows, and even when there's a live show, you can click on it and listen that way as well. So thank you as always, and I definitely encourage people to go check out the No Spots Podcast on Fridays, as Ken just said, on TruRadio Network. Ken, we will talk to you next week. And so I'm going to go to the next person, Brian Brennan. Any final thoughts before we let you go tonight?
No, I just want to give a shout out to Carmelo Anthony for winning Western Conference Player of the Week. You guys all know I'm a big Knicks fan, and I love Carmelo Anthony no matter where he plays. So I'm happy to see he's doing well on the Portland. I'm happy to see he's doing well in Portland, and things are going well in his first couple games out there. And hopefully he keeps it up, and good luck to him the rest of the season.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Brian, and we'll talk to you again soon. All right.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, the last person of the roundtable, the guy with all the stats, Arun. Any final parting words before we let you go tonight?
Congrats on the Redskins for getting a win and not being the last place team in the NFC East, and keeping their playoff hopes alive, and maybe Callahan will win Coach of the Year and the Redskins win out. Congratulations to Haskins and peace.
Sounds good. Yes, and congratulations to both the Redskins and the Ravens. It was a fun week indeed, and so I was happy to see both teams get a big victory. And now, as Arun was saying, 3 times the Redskins have won, and on all 3 of those weeks, all the other NFC East teams lost. So, interesting stat, keeps them alive. Dallas has to lose out. Eagles has to lose out except for that Dallas game, and the Redskins have to win out, including winning in Green Bay. So it's definitely a long shot, but not impossible. It has happened before where the Redskins have run the table and gotten into the playoffs. But Carol will talk more about the Redskins in the next hour. But thank you, Arun, as always. And with that, I will end my Facebook Live feed here. And I know that Carol is starting one right now for the Redskins one and the music break and all that sort of stuff. And I hope that everyone, once again, had a great Thanksgiving. I hopefully will be able to call in for part of the show next week, but it is my birthday, so no guarantees. But I'm sure that there'll be a great Wizards Roundtable, as always, with Carol leading it, and Caps will be covered live, the live game versus Columbus, with Anna on the phone, and I'm sure that there'll be lots of Redskins stuff to talk about as well. But I want to thank everyone for following the Facebook Live and commenting, and let's go Wizards and let's go Caps, and I'll end that feed there.